good. Go.
All right. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the second round, number 2 of No Traps, No Glory. I hope everybody enjoyed the first. I seem to get a lot of favorable feedback from it, so I'm glad that everyone was able to watch. I'm glad everyone did watch. We're going to be also, too, trying to upload to iTunes. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Smith, SoundCloud.
It's already on SoundCloud, just to make it more public than it is. But iTunes is the issue at the moment.
Okay. I'll put the SoundCloud link in the bio to our Instagram, and you could link it up on there. So that way, if you're driving and you don't feel like looking at me, which I don't know why anyone would not want to look at me for 30 minutes straight.
You're easy on the eyes.
Well, don't make me blush. Now I'm blushing. So I'm joined again this week, as you've already heard, by my venerable co-host, Mr. Smith.
Hello.
So he's fantastic in providing the setup, the information, and everything else that we need,
and some keen insights, hopefully.
And some keen insights as well. So we'll look forward to hear from him throughout this edition. This podcast I don't anticipate being as lengthy as the previous one. This is more or less it's a follow-up to our visit this week by none other than Uncle Dimitri. So, as most people know, we had Dmitry Klokov here again this past week. He did a seminar. Normally he does seminars on the weekend, but this one we organized. However, it seemed working out. And it surprised me because I didn't really anticipate that a lot of people would sign up and do a seminar that occurred during the week. This was during a Wednesday and Thursday. So, I guess for those who came, they were motivated, which was a good thing, and came during the week, listened to Klokov. They got beat up, and I think everyone had a really good time. So I'd like to share a little bit about that to you because I really haven't seen, for all Klokov's travels, all the seminars that he has done, I haven't seen anyone really have a breakdown of what he does. I'm not going to give away what he does in the seminar because I think that would just be a waste of time and also a disservice to him per se, because I can't relay the information that he has, the information that he puts forth, but more or less an overview of the value that I find in the seminar and what I thought. So first off, what's it about? Obviously, as you can see, I have my list here. Being well prepared goes a long way, and that's something that Klokov stressed in the seminar. But naturally, everyone knows it's a weightlifting seminar. It's going to be about weightlifting. He's going to be discussing every aspect of weightlifting. But you have to understand where it's coming from. It's coming from a guy who has been in the sport for well over, he's 36 now, or 35, 36. He started when he was, I believe, like 10 or 11. So he's been in the sport for about 25 years. He's gone through one of the best sports systems in the world. He lived in the training camp for 23 years of his life. So that lends a lot of credential to the man's background and what he's able to do. Not to mention, for those who don't know, his father was a world champion. His father was also president of the Weightlifting Federation for a number of years. One would have reason to believe that Klokov has a little bit of knowledge behind him. So he offers a lot. His seminars are basically not so much, I'd say, well, I'm sorry, let me back that up. When I picked him up from the airport, we spoke a little bit in the car, obviously, as one would, in a car ride while you're sitting there in traffic and such. But he was saying how he doesn't really have interest right now in being at the high level of weightlifting involvement, such as either coaching or in being involved in the politics of the federation. But with his seminars, he enjoys being at the foundation, the grassroots level of helping beginners, going through fundamentals. And in the first seminar that he did, he was saying how he was, I believe in Italy, he said, he went into the seminar and he just pummeled people with about 6 hours worth of high-level information, as if he was speaking to professional athletes in that time, telling them exactly what to do. And he said that when he realized he had to change everything he did was, after he gave all that information, the first question someone asked when he asked if they had questions, someone said, "Do you use hook grip or not while you're doing all this?" So he realized he had to backtrack on everything and say, okay, this is not the group that I'm used to working with. And I think he's done a great job of, one, the patience that he has, and we'll get into this in a little bit, but the patience that he has and working with such a novice group, which most people who I believe attend the seminars are, even if they have experience. Again, going back to, let's say, our car ride to the airport, we were just discussing something else, and I joked with him saying 20 plus years as a professional athlete, I'd hope that he has an understanding of himself, and he just laughed and then said, yes, 20 years as a professional athlete is like 100 years as a regular person. So there's nothing that cannot be taken away from this guy. And the first seminar, I learned a lot. Second time, it was essentially the same premise, but I still learned different aspects of it, or different aspects of what he was trying to get across, taking things away differently. My perspective has maybe changed a little bit, and then again changed one more time. So it was very worthwhile. Again, like I said, I'm not going to go into the details of the seminar because every seminar is somewhat different. He goes through technical aspects, how he teaches techniques, certain approaches, things that he does, and that's going to be anywhere. There are different schools of weight training, but his method is what he has done, what he's found worked, and what others along in his lineage have done. So that's what he can give. So what I will say to that is, if you want to find out more, go to one of his seminars. And most people, this brings me to the next point that I have on my list, is the cost of it. A lot of people, they'll look at the cost and be like, oh, $500, I don't know if I want to spend that much. I would say it is, and this is coming from myself too. Like originally I'd be like, I don't know if I really care to spend $500. I have a really good coach. I mean, I've made good progress over the years. He knows me, and I'm not going to change a lot based upon this. But he's worth every bit of it because of the perspective that you gain from not only listening to what he says. I would say I learned equal amount from him, not from what he said, as well as just watching him, how he carries himself, his energy, how he moves about the room, how he moves, the passion that he has discussing things, his demeanor. You can learn just as much with that because you can see how he's bred, how he's been cultivated. He's disciplined, he's organized, he's focused, he's regimented, and he's just, as my good friend Ekram said when he stopped by, is that to be the best, you have to be the best. And it's true. Klokov is a different breed of person. And there's so much to be learned from it. I think personally, in my opinion, in the past 2 seminars that I've had here, he was completely underutilized. And I would encourage anybody who goes to any sort of seminar, whether Klokov, Chirakti, any champion, go into it with a really good line of questions. You're at the disposal, you have someone, an Olympic champion, Olympic competitor, someone of such a high level at your disposal. Don't ask stupid questions like do they do cardio. Don't ask what their favorite competition was, because these are rote, inane questions. Ask them things that are actually going to be meaningful, something that makes them think, something you could really take away from, because he was so underutilized when it came time to questions being thrown at him that I thought it was a complete loss of what you're spending. You could gain so much, but that's my tip on that. So that's one thing I'm going to say, walking away with it. So if you take a seminar, and he may be back here again next year, we'll see. Make sure you come up with so many questions, watch videos, do anything, watch his Instagram, and come up with something thoughtful and meaningful. Because when you have, think of any professional. Someone who's been doing something professionally, in-depth, through tutelage, mentor of anyone in the field. Let's say, again, Klokov worked with David Riegert. Everyone should know who David Riegert is, his father. Everyone should know who his father is. And this goes, again, whether you're an electrician, a carpenter, something like that. When you have a tutelage from generations, mentors, there's so much knowledge to be had. And when you're a beginner in something, you want to extract as much of that as possible. So that's what I say. Klokov comes back here, you better come with a good list of questions like my pad here. So that way you can get a little bit more out of it. So my advice to you. All right, so now that we went over that component, Klokov, again, he said he'll be here next year, probably around the same time. So we'll look to see what happens with that and what we can do. But now to what everyone else wants to know. In the past, he put a couple Instagram posts up of his workouts. The one he did in Australia, which I'll have you know, this was crazy. Goes from Australia. His flight was delayed because of the hurricane. So, excuse me. Flies from Melbourne to LA to JFK. Lands JFK 5:30 in the morning. I pick him up from the airport a couple hours back. We went grocery shopping like a cute couple together. Drop him off at his hotel. He promised Vasily Plavnikov that he would do a workout with him. They picked him up, I think, about half an hour later after I'd finally left from the hotel, after everything got situated. Drove down to New York City. He did some overhead squats and I think a couple other things. I forget exactly what he mentioned. Then strict pressed 152.5 kilos after traveling all that time. They're nonstop travel. Then came back, dropped off the hotel, went to bed, picked him up the next day. He did the seminar. Then the following day, I picked him up. Actually, he was going to do bodybuilding at, I think, Anytime Fitness. It ended up not working out, so I picked him up earlier, came and trained here, and then he had a light workout. You could also follow on his Instagram, where he did the muscle snatch from the bottom position, some muscle snatches with 120 kilos, then proceeded to work up to snatching 160 kilos basically a power snatch without moving his feet, effortless. So it was just him and I watched him the whole time, and I would have left and allowed him to work out, but he wanted music, so I had my phone connected to the Bluetooth, and Klokov wants music. I don't think you should walk out on him while he's trying to train. So I sat in the corner, trying not to creep on him. I'm like this while he's lifting, just pretend not to see. But he was really focused. He was concentrating on everything that he did. He recorded, obviously, some videos for Instagram. He's savvy enough to know that now he can do that for content. But his workout was very effective, very efficient. He moved one to the next, to the next, to the next. And it was beautiful. And that's how training should be. Minimal distractions. Focus exactly on what you're doing. And the workout being the focus itself, not extraneous activities. And this is something that I yell at my lifters about all the time. I yell people to get off the phone, yell people to stop talking, do whatever, because certain people, you don't realize how big a distraction some things like that can be. So a lot of people, they'll track workouts in their phone. I'll tell them to get a notebook, because one, the notebook forces you to physically write it down, which I think has a different effect on the brain with how you're recording your workout or notes that you need to do and need to remember. Also, too, the phones will pull you in so easily. All of a sudden you get a message from someone, I'll just respond back quick. All of a sudden you're getting lost in it. So I lost my train of thought on that, but nonetheless, that's something that, watching him is, again, something you'd want to apply to everybody else. And you want to apply that to your own training because, again, like I said, his training was very effective. It was very quick, very efficient. And that's how he basically said his training is the entire time. While he's traveling, obviously, yes, it's very difficult. But like he says, he listens to his body. He does the best he can. And with that, he's planning to snatch 210 from the hang at the Klokov Power Weekend in November, which will be awesome if he did that. That'd be such a huge snatch. Not to mention, Klokov himself is monstrous. He weighs 120 kilos right now. So when he came in, I believe it was March, he said he had the flu, so he lost a bunch of weight too, but he weighed about 107, I think. So go from 107 to 120. I mean, he barely fit in my car. I was bumping elbows with him while we were driving. Excuse me, sir, while I'm trying to get my Easy Pass out. But I'm interested to see what he does. So with that, I'd say we'll see what happens in terms of the seminars, but I'd like to say that I found it both times that I've had him here, it was very worthwhile because there's so much to be learned, and even just being around the guy, getting to speak to him, even a little bit. So from what most people don't know, and like he says, is that, let's say his English, for example, and this goes to show the guy's dedication. All of his English, he's never done anything to learn English other than just conduct seminars. I'm sure he maybe learned one or two things to get a foundation in terms of sentence structure of the language, but all of his English has just been done by asking, repeating, doing, and that just, I think, is a testament to the dedication that the guy has. So he's on the road nonstop, traveling for a couple months at a time on end, from every corner of the world to conduct seminars, learning English, improving these skills while still training. It just goes to show the dedication, discipline, and regiment, would it be regimentation, Mr. Smith, or regiment that he has? We'll go regiment. The regiment that he sets himself in. He knows his body. He knows how to do things to be able to make himself successful and apply himself in every endeavor that he's doing. And I'd like to say that he's doing a pretty good job. So, Uncle Dimitri, look forward to having you back. And I encourage everyone to come see him. So, with that, that's my overview of the entire Klokov experience, if you will. I'm glad I got to spend a little bit more intimate time with him this time. Last time I didn't drive him to the airport and back, but I was able to pick him up and drop him at his hotel, went grocery shopping, like I said. So, Mr. Smythe, I believe you have a few questions for me, if you will.
Well, you said that you don't want to give away details, and you did say what you took away from your time with him in his training, but can you tell us one thing that you picked up on the seminar that you didn't from previous? What was something new? One detail.
One detail. Well, he's big on strengthening the quads. He's very big on that, and he shows certain exercises and approaches to it. But the one thing that I thought that he said was interesting was he's big, let's say he compares static and dynamic. So with squats, you have static, which is going down slowly as he refers to it, and then the dynamic, which is the coming up part. And he was essentially making the reference, and I'll just kind of paraphrase a little bit here and put everything in a little broader context. Like, let's say a snatch from the hang, or like he likes to do the jerks from the pause position. He was saying you'll always have better, even though the static may be hard, you'll always have better ability to make a lift from a hang position or from a pause dick. You'll always have the better ability to make a lift from the hang or from a pause jerk, because even though the static portion is more difficult, it allows you the time to put yourself in proper positions. And that's what they want to train constantly, and what the purpose behind these exercises is to be able to work yourself and put yourself in proper positions to utilize your strength fully. So that's one of the big things. So he was saying that no matter what, I think he was even asking for the difference between doing a snatch from the hang and the floor and doing a jerk from a pause and without it. He was trying to make the reference that most people can do more from a snatch, more snatch from the hang than they can the floor, because they put in a good position. But he said you should be able to jerk just about the same with pausing in the dip and pausing without the dip, because of your ability to correct yourself and put yourself where you need to be. So that's one of the things I thought was the most interesting that I took away this time.
Interesting. That rings very true for me, given my recent experiences. So.
Yes, and everyone, Mr. Smith has made a beautiful jerk record the other day. He snatched. He jerked 120 kilos. You can snatch 120 kilos. That'd be fantastic. But give it another 6 months. But he very nice jerk with it. His jerks remarkably improved, utilizing, I would say, not even indirectly utilizing a lot of the principles that Klokov had taught.
So when he does the seminar, does he look at individual lifters and critique them? He
does. He goes through a couple. I'm sorry to cut you off a little prematurely.
Not a problem.
No, you're used to it.
Indeed.
So he goes through a sequence of drills to help teach certain points that he wants to reiterate and put out. But then he has everyone work certain positions. Basically, yes. To answer your question, yes, he does. He puts everyone in particular positions, the correct positions that he wants to see. A lot of yes, no, butt up, chin up, butt down, going on about that, and makes people work very hard. And what I really enjoy about it, and I think and also too is what he puts a lot across, is when everyone comes in to lift weights, everyone just wants to come in, they want to snatch, they want to clean and jerk, then they want to squat, and then that's it. They just want to go through, I want to do this, I want to make a record, I want to do that. But no one realizes how weak they are in all the positions that are integral. And the weaknesses will always manifest and make it very difficult to learn proper technique, because if you're strong in your quads, or your back's stronger, or you have weaknesses in either or other portions, it's going to be very difficult. Your body's always going to naturally compensate for where you're weak, and it's going to distort the positions that may be correct if you have especially as the weight goes up. So the positions that he does, he has everyone do a lot of holding, a lot of feeling where they need to be. And that's really the most beneficial aspect. And ultimately, it's the fundamental aspect of weightlifting, is learning these positions, learning how to hold them, getting tolerant to holding them, because in time, that'll strengthen your body strengthen your body in the long run, which is going to lead you to more success. Like I really haven't had you do too many because you don't have as much of a need, but some people, you'll see, I don't know if you've noticed, have a lot of them do like slow descending pulls, slow descending squats, a lot of holds at certain points, because it works that area where they're the weakest and reinforces them having correct positions. So that's a lot of what he went across, and he works with everybody, he yells at everybody. He actually faces two people in front of one another. There's a picture of CrossFit Dan and I that Viv from Everyday Lifters took, and you see us facing each other, and he wasn't doing the positions right. I'm holding the position correctly, and I'm shaking, and it's getting more tiring. God-awful position, and Klokov's correcting him. So he has one person, then the other, and he's correcting one, then the other, and then when one changes something, he's still working on that person while the other one's holding, till finally they're both okay. Then before near exhausted and collapse, as someone did, Jody, he then has them perform the lift, and he'll give his critique. But I love his critiques because they're brutally harsh, brutally honest. And I think it's fantastic, because a lot of people a lot of people can't take that harshness, but when it's coming from a world champion, coming from Klokov, that I don't think anyone's going to speak back or get offended to, they take it directly. So,
Well, they don't know the guy, and he's not a friend, so no reason to get offended. He's just going to give his honest opinion and try to make you a better lifter.
and that's exactly it, and that's really what a lot of people need. And that's the harsh truth. Also, I feel the harsh truth of weightlifting is that it's not pretty. It's a lot of hard work, and you have to be mentally tough, equally as physically tough, to be able to withstand not only the physical abuse, the duration, but realizing that you have to be constantly worked on. You have to be harped upon. You have to face the truth of what you don't do to be able to make that sort of progress. And this ties into, as what latter podcasts we'll get into, the philosophy of things. Please.
Yeah, well, absolutely, because I just don't understand the people that get offended, easily or offended at all. I mean, I'm not completely immune to it, but I mean, in life you have the choice of being, if you can listen to somebody and reject their opinion, you can say that they've got bad motivations, you can say whatever, but it's you either listen to them or you don't. You move on. It's not about it's either about you or it's about them, and you just make that choice and decide. But with a barbell in your hand, the barbell tells you whether you got it right or wrong, and the coach is going to try and tell you exactly why, and you can either listen to them or not. Getting offended is just a waste of energy.
That's a very valiant point. You've learned that as a lifter, and I've learned that as a lifter, and you have to understand that when weightlifting, the bar is an inanimate object. Anything that happens to the bar is your fault. What you do right with it, that's your doing. What you do wrong with it, that's also your doing. Also, too, and most people don't realize, your personality will manifest in your lifting. If you're distracted, if you're dedicated, if you have excuses, if you're constantly late, anything will manifest in your lifting. And that's the great thing about lifting, is that it's a microcosm of the world and how you conduct yourself in it. And the only difference is you can mask a lot of your flaws in the world. In lifting, you can't mask any of them. The bar will always pull the truth out in you, and it's up to you how you want to hear that truth and see that truth, whether it be a coach giving you the harsh opinion on things of what you're doing right or what you're doing wrong, and more so what you're doing wrong, what you need to improve, or if you continually do the same thing wrong, why is there no change, you sometimes have to hear it the hard way. If you're just being stubborn, if you're being obstinate, if you don't think that you're doing anything wrong, you're never going to get any better. If you get offended by someone says, it aggravates you, but you utilize that and channel it and realize that the person's only trying to make you better, it's in both of mutual party interest to make someone better, then that's on you. And that's where it comes down to taking everything, utilizing everything to be able to make yourself a better lifter. And if you're willing to do that, you'll have success. If you're not willing to do that, then most people in that capacity stay at the same, they plateau, and then they walk out the door.
Whoa, that's deep.
It is very deep.
Well, those are my questions. Those are my serious questions. My other question is whether you had that salad with him.
Well, it's funny you should ask, Mr. Smith. You see, this time Uncle Dimitri is training hard for his competition, so I believe his diet's changed a little bit, and as he said, that it has. So when we took our beautiful trip to Whole Foods, I let him run amok in the store with a shopping cart, and I picked up a water and some food. I don't need to really go grocery shopping. I went the other day. But he needed some food. When he comes back later with a baguette and some cheese and kefir, actually the naked drink, the naked drink? It says naked. It's like a fruit juice type of thing.
Yeah, that's not me at all.
Okay, but you know it.
I think so.
Okay, so anyway, he says he only gets those when he can only get those in America. So whenever he's here, he always makes sure to get one. So we got like the 5-gallon pail of it, and I forget what flavor it was. So he's been having that. So there was no salad for me this time. Oh. And then I dropped him off at ShopRite, and he went over there. So I really don't know what the guy got outside of that, but whatever there was in terms of leftovers, there were none for me.
Very good.
Yeah. So.
Well, those are my questions.
Well, I appreciate that. Those are good questions. And we'll post a link up. If anyone else has any other questions, feel free to respond to us. Slide in our DM, and I'll be sure to respond to them. But for now, thank everybody for watching. Appreciate it. And we'll see you next episode. No Traps, No Glory.
No, we won't. This is a podcast.